The rain-slicked pavement of the FDR Drive reflected the flashing blue lights as Officer Garrett Vance shoved Adrienne Sterling against the hood of her black sedan. "I saw the warrant. Don't tell me you're just driving home when the system says you're a fugitive." Vance's voice was thick with the arrogance of a man who thought he'd caught a big prize. Adrienne, a woman of dark complexion with eyes like flint, didn't struggle. She leaned into the cold metal and whispered, "Officer, you should have checked the system twice. Because while you were running my plate, I was running your disciplinary file. You have exactly 30 seconds to realize that the fugitive you're assaulting is actually the woman who signed your paycheck this morning." The click of her handcuffs was drowned out by the arrival of 5 black SUVs, signaling the end of Vance's career. The New York skyline was a jagged silhouette against the bruising purple of a stormy twilight. Adrienne Sterling, a woman of dark complexion whose presence commanded a room before she even spoke, was driving her personal vehicle, a modest but spotless black sedan. She was dressed in a sharp, tailored suit, having just finished a private briefing at City Hall. She was a picture of success and discipline. But to Officer Garrett Vance, sitting in his cruiser in a dark cutout near the bridge, she was just a suspicious driver in a car that looked too nice for the neighborhood. Vance was a man who lived for the hunt, fueled by a smug sense of superiority. He pulled out behind her, his lights remaining dark as he ran her plates. Not because she was speeding, but because he didn't like the way she looked at him through her rear-view mirror. When the screen on his dashboard flickered, he didn't see the confidential/high priority flag correctly. His eyes narrowed on a technical glitch that showed an active status alert. His arrogance did the rest. He didn't see a high-ranking official. He saw a win. He flipped on his sirens, the high-pitched wail cutting through the rain. Adrienne pulled over immediately, her hands visible on the steering wheel. She knew the protocol better than any person in the city. But Vance wasn't interested in protocol. He was interested in dominance. He approached the window with his hand on his weapon. "License and registration." "Step out of the car. Now." "Officer, may I ask the reason for the stop?" Adrienne asked, her voice calm, level, and utterly devoid of fear. "I don't answer to you. I said get out." Vance roared. He didn't wait. He reached through the open window, unlocked the door, and forcefully yanked Adrienne from the driver's seat. The physical contact was violent and unnecessary. He grabbed her by the upper arm, twisting it slightly as he forced her toward the rear of the car. Adrienne felt the rain hitting her face, but her focus remained on the officer's badge number. "You're being detained for an outstanding felony warrant," Vance mocked, his face inches from hers. "What's the matter? Didn't think a fancy lady like you could get caught? You people always think the rules don't apply once you get a nice car." "Officer Vance," she said, reading his name tag, "I suggest you verify that warrant before you proceed. You are currently in violation of the department's use of force policy and the Fourth Amendment." Vance laughed, a harsh, jagged sound. He slammed her chest first against the trunk, his weight pressing her down. "I'm the law on this highway. I don't need a lecture from a criminal." The situation began to spiral. Vance's partner, a younger officer named Miller, stepped out of the cruiser, looking worried. He looked at Adrienne, the way she carried herself, the expensive watch on her wrist, the lack of fear in her eyes. "Garrett, wait," Miller whispered. "The system is lagging. Let me rerun the plate. Something feels off." "Shut up, Miller. I got this." Vance snapped, his ego blinded by the thrill of the arrest. He pulled his handcuffs from his belt, the cold steel clicking as he prepared to shackle her. A passing motorist, Curtis, a young man who worked as a night security guard, slowed down and started filming. He had seen enough routine stops turn into tragedies. "Hey, why you gotta be so rough with her? She wasn't even doing nothing." Curtis shouted from his window. Vance turned, his face contorted in a sneer. "Move along or you're next for obstruction. You want to spend the night in a cell too." Vance's aggression successfully cleared the immediate area of witnesses, but he forgot about the high-tech dashcam in Adrienne's own car, which was recording everything in 4K. Adrienne spoke again, her voice echoing against the metal of the car. "Officer, if you put those cuffs on me, there is no going back. You are making a choice that would define the rest of your life. I am giving you one last chance to follow the procedure for a high-profile identification." Vance ignored her. He ratcheted the cuffs onto her wrists, far tighter than necessary. The only thing defining my life is the promotion I'm getting for taking a felon off the street. Vance began to toss her car, throwing her professional files and a briefcase onto the wet pavement. He was looking for contraband to justify his aggression. He opened a slim leather folder. Inside was a gold-plated badge and an appointment letter signed by the mayor of New York. Vance stared at it. His brain struggled to compute the image. He looked at the photo on the ID. It was Adrienne. He looked at the title, Commissioner of Police. At that exact moment, 3 black Suburbans with tinted windows and sirens screaming screeched to a halt around the scene. The doors flew open, and Chief of Department Hayes stepped out, his face pale with fury. He had been tracking the commissioner's GPS for their scheduled meeting. The flow of the story shifted. The rain seemed to freeze. The younger officer, Miller, dropped his flashlight. He knew, just before the shocking reveal, "We want to take a quick moment to thank you for your support, love, and kindness. We wouldn't have come this far without you. Subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue to bring you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city and country in the comments below. Thank you very much." Now, let's get back to the story. Chief Hayes marched directly up to Vance, who was still holding Adrienne's wrists. Hayes didn't say a word. He reached out and grabbed Vance's hand, physically forcing him to let go of the commissioner. "Officer Vance," Hayes said, his voice a low, terrifying growl that promised professional execution. "Do you have any idea whose life you just destroyed?" Adrienne Sterling turned around slowly. She didn't look angry. She looked disappointed, which was far worse. She held up her cuffed wrists toward Vance. "Officer," Adrienne said, her voice cut into the rain like a guillotine, "I believe you were looking for a high-profile arrest. Congratulations. You just found the one person in this city who can ensure you never wear a uniform again. Unlock these. Now!" The rain continued to lash down on the FDR drive, but Officer Garrett Vance felt as though he were burning alive. The metal of the key felt slick in his shaking hand as he fumbled to unlock the handcuffs he had so arrogantly snapped onto Adrienne Sterling's wrists. The silence from the gathered high-ranking officials was more deafening than the sirens. As the cuffs fell away, Adrienne didn't rub her wrists. She didn't scream. She simply straightened her tailored jacket and looked at the Chief of Department, Hayes. "Chief," she said, her voice steady and chillingly professional. "Officer Vance here informed me that the system showed an active felony warrant for my plate. I'd like you to explain to him, and to me, why my security-cleared vehicle flagged anything other than a high-priority official status." Chief Hayes glared at Vance, who looked like he wanted the earth to swallow him. The warrant Vance saw was a test ping for the new encrypted security layer we installed this morning. Commissioner. It was sent to every cruiser's terminal with a giant red, "Do not engage, test only" header, which means Officer Vance didn't just ignore the law. He ignored a direct departmental order to look for a win. The power shift was total. The criminal Vance thought he had cornered was actually his highest-ranking superior. His big catch was actually a display of his own illiteracy and bias. The underestimated person was now the judge, jury, and executioner of his career. "Vance," Adrienne said, stepping closer until she was directly in his personal space, the same space he had violated minutes before. "You told me you were the law on this highway. You told me that people like me think the rules don't apply. Tell me, now that you know who I am, do you still feel like the law?" Vance couldn't even meet her eyes. He stared at the wet pavement, his smugness replaced by a hollow, broken expression. I made a mistake, ma'am. I thought." "You didn't think," Adrienne interrupted. "You reacted. You saw a woman of my complexion in a vehicle you didn't think I earned, and you hunted me. You bypassed every safety protocol and ignored your partner's warning because your ego was louder than your training." In front of the junior officer Miller, the chief of department, and the motorists who were still filming from their cars, Adrienne reached out and unclipped the body camera from Vance's chest. "This camera recorded your mistake," she said, "and tomorrow, the entire academy will watch it as a case study on exactly what kind of officer we are purging from the city. Chief Hayes take his service weapon and his shield. He is relieved of duty, effective immediately. He can walk back to the precinct. Vance was stripped of his authority in the middle of a rainstorm on the side of the highway. As he handed over his badge, the crowd of delayed motorists began to honk their horns, not in frustration at the traffic, but in a loud, rhythmic celebration of justice being served. The arrogant bully was now just a man in a wet shirt, walking home in the dark. Following the incident, Commissioner Adrienne Sterling didn't just fire Vance. She overhauled the entire digital dispatch system to ensure no officer could misinterpret security flags again. She used a video of her own assault to launch the Integrity First initiative, a program that fast-tracked promotion of officers like Miller, who had tried to stop his partner's aggression. Adrienne's status in the city rose to legendary proportions. She wasn't just a paper commissioner. She was a leader who had stood on the front lines and felt the sting of injustice herself. The department became more transparent. The community began to trust the badge again, and the streets of New York became safer, not through aggression, but through the quiet, steady application of the law. Authority is a responsibility to be carried, not a weapon to be swung at those you choose to look down upon. When you use your power to humiliate others, you are simply building the stage for your own eventual downfall. The truth is, the world is much smaller than your ego believes it to be. The person you mistreat on your way up is very often the same person who will hold your future in their hands on your way down.